What changes does 2026 bring for retirees and pre-retirees? From Social Security and Medicare to tax breaks and retirement contributions, there are several updates that could quietly impact your cash flow, taxes, and savings strategy. In this episode, Mark and I will talk about how you can make sure 2026 works with your plan, not against it.
It's easy to get lost on the way to retirement. Things like taxes, improper planning, and excessive market risk can all lead you astray from your goal of a successful and happy retirement. That's where Liz Whittaberry comes in. She's a holistic financial advisor and the founder of Best Path Advisors, and she can help guide you to a better financial path. This is Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whittaberry.
Welcome in once again to Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whittaberry, founder and financial advisor at Best Path Advisors. And we are back with new episodes in the new year. And yeah, kind of what's changing in 2026 is going to be the topic of conversation, Liz, as you set things up. There's always something happening. The new year is off to headlines and news, just like the end of last year was. We figure we might as well dive into some of the things and some of the changes that will continue to go. And of course, we do this, all throughout the year anyway. But why not kind of ring the new year in, with some money updates, if you will. So, how are you doing?
I am good. And obviously, one thing that's changing a lot, like we were talking about right before we started recording, is the weather, up and down, up and down,
all over the place, depending on where you live, I guess, right?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. It sure is crazy for you and for me as well.
Yes, ma'am.
But we want to talk about the things that are really going to endure throughout the year, not the headlines. So we're not going to focus on that because those will be gone in a week or two, possibly,
right,
or a month or two. So we want to talk about some things that are really important for people to focus on.
Exactly. So, you kind of set that up a little bit. So let's jump in and talk about the COLA. My mom had said to me years ago, and I thought it was cute, and I always use it. She's like, for years, they kept giving us a diet cola. It wasn't very good. But what is that?
Funny. Yeah. The COLA stands for cost of living adjustment. So that is how much your Social Security has increased for cost of living. Mm-hmm. And it's tagged to just average inflation, basic inflation. I'll make a point about that in a minute. But the cost of living adjustment for this year, 2026, is 2.8%.
Okay.
And that is a little bit higher than it was last year. It was 2.5% last year. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot with all the inflation that we've had.
Mm-hmm. But that was, I guess, lower than, obviously, the 22-24 range, right?
Right,
yeah.
Right. It was. And I took a minute and looked back over what inflation has been and what the cost of living adjustment has been. And since 2000, those are pretty well even, about 2.6% each on the average. Each year isn't an exact match, but this cost of living adjustment for Social Security is tracking that CPI number. Now, that is not necessarily the inflation that retirees feel.
Yeah, because there's multiple CPIs too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing that I talk with people about in their financial plan is the fact that their inflation is likely to be a little bit higher than what they hear. And that therefore means it's likely to be higher than your Social Security cost of living adjustment. Just looking, one number that I have is that since 2002, the healthcare inflation for retirees has been 3.39%. Well, the same period of time, that average inflation was 2.6%. So we see, that's getting close to 0.5% more for healthcare inflation, which retirees have a lot more healthcare than other age groups. And it's the same across a number of different things that retirees use. So retirees should anticipate that their inflation is going to be a little bit higher than this cost of living adjustment and have that worked into their plan, how they're going to keep up with inflation. It's great that Social Security increases, but it's not going to keep up with necessarily everything that you're doing as a retiree.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the punch, too, people feel is because typically whatever you get gets eaten up with Medicare changes,
yes,
right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Especially right now.
Yeah. So what's the changes there this year?
The Medicare Part B, which most people have taken from their Social Security, is about 10% over last year.
Okay.
So it's $185 a month last year. It's $202.90 a month this year. So that is almost a 10% increase. And it is the second largest dollar jump in the program's history.
Wow. Yeah, about
Now,
$20 or so, right? Yeah.
yeah. And when you think about it, on top of that, we have Medigap, our supplement. Those also had bigger increases than previous, about 2.5 to 3% higher on average than the 2024 increases. But when I look back at plans F, G, and N, the ones that most of my clients would be using, it's about double the increase it was back in 2021, a little more than double. Okay. So those plans increased by about 6.5%. And this year they increased by about 12.5 to 13%.
Wow. Interesting.
On the average. So when you plug that in and you're having that deducted from your Social Security, even though you got this 2.8% cost of living increase, you may actually be getting a smaller amount that's hitting your checking account.
Yes. I mean, obviously you want to strategize with this. You want to make sure that you're taking this stuff into account, especially within your retirement strategy and retirement plan. And then Liz, of course, we talked a little bit at the end of the year, throughout the last half of the year about some of the changes from the OBBA, right? And so let's talk about some of those final pieces there. Again, as we roll into the new year, people are thinking about tax time.
Yes.
Let's remind them of some of those changes there as well.
Yeah, I think you're referring to that additional tax deduction for seniors.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, correct.
Yes. And that gives seniors who are 65 and older an additional $6,000 basically standard deduction. It works like a standard deduction. So for married couples, you get another $12,000 added on top of your regular standard deduction. You don't have to itemize to get this extra amount. That allows you to have $6,000 to $12,000 more income that you're not paying tax on because you are getting to take this tax deduction. But it begins to phase out if you are single and you have $75,000 or more of income, or if you're joint filers, then $150,000 or more of income. So I do see some people that are getting some or all of that benefit and others that are not. And a lot depends on the type of income that's coming in. Do they have smaller IRAs or do they have sources of income that is not pushing them up into that higher tax bracket?
That's a great way you worded that, Liz, a type of income, right? Because we often talk about, and people are just unaware that how you structure your income really affects how your Social Security, goes, right? So That's why we talk about like where are you pulling from and when.
Right, exactly. And some income like dividend income, if you're in a lower tax bracket, that can get sheltered under the 0% capital gains rate. If it's the right kind of dividend income so that it's getting treated under capital gains rules instead of ordinary income tax rules, then you can have a pretty good chunk of income that's coming in that you're not having to pay any tax on.
Gotcha.
And so it really depends on how you're structured, but also your goals are important to think about. Is this additional senior tax deduction so important that you would need to plan around it? For some people, it might be, but for other people, it's not. Because if you have a larger IRA and you're staring at these very big RMDs in the future that are going to push you into a much higher tax bracket at that point in time, going to push you into a much higher IRMA bracket, then, to save $2,500 to $3,000 of tax today,
Gotcha.
may not make a lot of sense in the big picture. And so it's really important to run those numbers and look at not just this year, but look forward and decide where's the trade-off for me? What is the best thing for me to do this year versus later to put myself in the best position over the entirety of my retirement plan?
Yeah. And it's really interesting how, intricate, right, and interwoven some of this stuff gets. We tend to sometimes just kind of think in the very broad spectrum of stuff, but that's why we stress the importance of getting a strategy together, with tax efficiency being a big piece of that, because it's going to really move the needle, or can move the needle anyway. So what's some other things to think about? Catch-up contributions if you're over 50?
Yes, those have increased, which is always nice. The more that you can get into that retirement plan world, the better.
Yeah, pump away.
Because you have benefits on one side or the other. Whether
Right.
that's you get the benefit when you put it in because you get the tax deduction, or you get the benefit when you take it out because it comes out tax free. Either way, you're getting money into this bucket that has a benefit. This year, if you are under age 50, well, all ages, you get to put into your 401k, 403b, 457, 24,500. So that increased a little bit.
That's a number across the board for everybody.
A number across the board for everybody.
Okay.
If you're 50 and above, then you get to add an additional catch-up contribution.
And that number is what?
And that is 8,000.
Woohoo.
So you get a total of 32,500. And if you're in that very special group, ages 60, 61, 62, and 63, your catch-up contribution is actually $11,250. So you get a total of $35,750.
That's not bad, though. I mean,
that's
even,
very good.
Yeah, even for that 4 years, Liz, right, from 60 to 63. I mean, that's a sizable chunk of money you could throw away there.
Yeah,
you
you
or
could
put away. I should say throw away.
Yeah, put quite a bit of money back.
Yeah,
and at times, it comes at a time where most people don't have kids in college anymore, and they can really focus on, let me get as much into my retirement bucket before I retire. So that's really good timing. For people that don't have a company plan, your IRA and Roth IRA contributions are $7,500. So that's up a little bit. And then the catch up is now $1,100. So you could get a total of $8,600 if you're 50 and above.
Okay. Yeah, and you think about that, though, when you talk about the fact that you have ideally the kids off the payroll, you're probably making the most you've ever made, at your 50s, right? A lot of people typically are. And if you're taking advantage of this, let's, just even doing basic math, let's saying for 10 years, right? We'll just make an average number of 30 grand, right? You're talking about, it was 32.5, right? For folks that are over 50 with the catch up. But let's just round it off to 3,000 or 30,000 for even numbers. $300,000 in 10 years, not bad, right? I mean, that can make a sizable dent in what you're doing. And then couple in some tax efficiencies and planning and strategizing, you can make a real dent.
And if you're maxing out your company plan and you still have money to save, then you can save in that IRA. And if your income puts you in a place where you can't deduct the IRA and you can't put it into a Roth because your income phases you out, you can still get it into the IRA as a non-deductible contribution, and that comes back out with no tax on it later.
Wow.
So, that's a really, that's a good thing to keep in mind. And then you could convert that to a Roth and not pay tax on the portion that you had contributed.
Right. And of course, with the extension of with the OBBA, right? So with the extension of the TCJA, basically, you've got a few more years to Roth over time as well, if that should be in the cards for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. So some good numbers there. Any final thoughts or, things, changes to think about as we roll into this new 2026 year?
Well, I would say that it is important to think about where you're saving money, not just how much you're saving, but where you're saving it. Think about what your tax rate is now, what it might be later in retirement, or, when you're going to be pulling money out. And then think also about your estate plan and what you want the assets that you leave to look like. If you're leaving the traditional IRA, traditional 401k, then your heirs are going to have some tax to pay on that. They're going to have to settle up on the taxes. They're going to have some time limits. We've talked about that before. They're going to have to take that out within that 10-year period. If you're leaving Roth money, then they get to take that out tax-free. They still have to take it out by the end of the 10 years, but they get 10 years of tax-free growth in the meantime. And so you want to think about your goals for yourself and your goals for your estate plan, and think about where's the best place for you to put your money away this year, and then maximize that bucket.
Well, whether it's Social Security, Medicare, taxes, retirement savings limits, small changes or big changes, certainly can have impacts on your strategy, right? So certainly the small ones do a lot of times more than we think they will. So a quick review and conversation is always a good idea. And if you need help and you want to make sure you're on your best path and not already working with Liz, please reach out to her before you take any action. Give her a jingle. You can find her online at bestpathadvisors.com. That's bestpathadvisors.com. Get yourself some time onto the calendar or check out a lot of the tools, tips, and resources that she has available. Check out our YouTube channel as well, and don't forget to subscribe to the audio podcast as well as the video podcast. Lots of good stuff. I shouldn't say it's a podcast. I guess it's more videos, but still, either way, good stuff, right? So go check it out. And, of course, it's very easy to do, again, at bestpathadvisors.com. And you can click on the Good Stuff tab and find all those things I just talked about. Liz, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for breaking it down. And Happy New Year to you.
Talk to you next time.
We'll see you next time right here on the podcast. Thank you for your time. This is Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whittaberry.
The preceding program is sponsored by Best Path Advisors, which is solely responsible for its content. Securities offered through J.W. Cole Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through J.W. Cole Advisors. Best Path Advisors, J.W. Cole Financial, and J.W. Cole Advisors are unaffiliated entities. The opinions expressed by Liz Whittaberry should not be construed as specific tax, legal, or investment advice, nor as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Neither J.W. Cole Financial nor its representatives provide legal, tax, or accounting advice. Persons who provide such advice do so in a capacity other than as a registered representative of J.W. Cole. Investing is subject to risks, including the loss of principal. Due to volatility within the markets mentioned, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable, however, their accuracy or completeness cannot be guaranteed.